15 hours you're awake every day. Your voice is the most powerful thing in burnout. And so I know this in the therapy space, you guys probably help a lot of patients with this inner voice.
Right.
But when I meet with patients, it's the hardest thing for me to evaluate. There's not a lab value that I can run on how you talk to yourself. And if 8 hours of every day, you're telling yourself, I'm not enough. I hated the way that therapy session went. Like, why did I respond that way? If you are all day long self-deprecating, you are at an astronomical higher risk of burning out than if you can just say like, man, that was kind of funny the way I said that. Like I was embarrassed for a little bit, but like everybody says those things and you don't think about it again. Your nervous system that responds to that in such a different way.
This episode is brought to you by TherapyNotes, TherapyNotes.com. For the past 20 plus years, I've been working in the mental health field as a licensed therapist, private practice owner, coach, and consultant. And I've learned a lot the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi there, I'm Gordon Brewer, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your practice, or looking for fresh inspiration, this podcast is here to support you in your journey. Each week, we explore the real-world challenges and opportunities that come with building and growing your private practice. From marketing and money management to ethics, client care, and self-care, we cover it all. You'll hear from leading experts, seasoned clinicians, and innovative voices in the mental health and allied health fields, all sharing their insights and strategies to help you thrive in your practice. So let's jump in and get to today's episode of the Practice of Therapy podcast. Podcast. This is episode number 440 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. I'm your host, Gordon Brewer, and so glad you've joined me. Looking forward to you hearing from my guest on this particular episode, Dr. Kristin Oja. And Kristin is a doctoral nurse practitioner, and she works specifically in functional medicine. And so one of the things that we talk about, or a lot of what her wheelhouse is just thinking about stress and burnout. And so we jump into that topic. You know, it's a topic I've covered a lot here on the Practice of Therapy and the importance of self-care and all of that sort of thing. But she takes a really neat approach to this in that just thinking about what are the things that are filling our buckets. And so looking forward to you hearing from Dr. Kristin Oja here in just a moment. But before we get to that, one of the things I'd love to invite you to do, if you're interested in working with me and doing some consulting, I'd invite you to go over to our website, practiceoftherapy.com, and just click on the link up there that says Coaching and Consulting, and you can find out more about that. And also, when you go to that landing page, you'll see a place where you can book a free 15-minute brainstorming call with me. And so we can talk about what it is that you want help with as far as in your practice and maybe some of your stuck areas, and also seeing if you might be a good fit for consulting with me. So be sure to do that. Go over to practiceoftherapy.com and click on that link. And also, before we get to my conversation with Kristin, I'd love for you to hear more from our sponsor of the podcast, TherapyNotes.
Hi, this is Rachel, Gordon's podcast assistant, and I want to share the platform Gordon trusts for his own practice, TherapyNotes. TherapyNotes is the highest rated EHR, practice management, and billing software for mental health professionals. It's an all-in-one system for scheduling, notes, billing, and secure client communication. And if you ever need help, their 24/7 customer service is always just a call or email away. Their latest update, Therapy Fuel, uses AI to streamline documentation, generating progress notes, creating contact notes from client messages, and even summarizing client history forms, saving therapists hours every week. Are you ready to give it a try? head to therapynotes.com, click Start My Free Trial, and use the code Gordon to get your first 2 months free. See why Therapy Notes is the most trusted EHR and the one Gordon chooses for his practice. Please enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. And I'm really excited for you to get to meet Kristin Oja. And Kristin is a physician doing functional medicine. Have I got that correct?
So DNP, Doctor of Nursing Practice, but yes, I do functional medicine. That is my background and my passion. And so I had the privilege of her interviewing me for her podcast. But Kristin, welcome, and tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed. Awesome. Thank you. And I'm excited to be here. So my career, I always talk about, started actually as a personal trainer. I loved it. I love seeing people get stronger, feel better, be an encourager, support them, see them accomplish things they never thought possible. But I wanted to get a college degree. And so I went nursing. And as soon as I got into nursing school and started doing rotations, I started recognizing how good at sick care we were in the US versus true healthcare. And I always say I'm so thankful to be here. If I get diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or whatever it may be, we have some of the best surgeons, the best oncologists. But when I'm just looking to be the best version of myself, or I'm looking to understand the root cause of my symptoms versus find a medication, I think that's where our system fails a lot of people. And so I went back and got my master's and my doctorate, and then I went on and got Institute of Functional Medicine training and A4M training, and just kept learning and researching how the body works as one and getting deeper into pathophysiology to help my patients understand why. Why are they depressed? Why are they having brain fog? Why is their hair falling out? Why have they had a third sinus infection this year? Like, I'm a curious person. And so I went back to my personal training background, and I went back to my experience in functional medicine, and I wanted to create the nation's first functional medicine and movement practice. And so we opened the first one in Atlanta in 2019 and have since grown to our 8th location that's going to be opening in August. We have about 11,000 patients, and we're going to be getting close to 90 employees. And it's all around lifestyle medicine, taking a deeper dive, helping our patients feel seen and heard, leaning in on their journey and their experience versus just a protocol. So that's me.
Yeah, that's great. I always love hearing people's stories of how they kind of end up where they are. And so it's just really, it sounds like you're really following your passion with what you do, and it certainly comes through. But yeah. And so, yeah, I think for most of us in the therapy space, or really we understand the kind of the mind-body concept of everything's connected. But I know one thing about us as therapists is we're not as good about taking care of ourselves as maybe we should. But I know one of your things for you, Kristin, is really learning how to manage burnout and manage our resilience with that, and what we can do to kind of help with that. So I guess maybe a place to start is how do you define burnout?
I think that's great. And I am so happy to speak to your audience that's therapists, because we do a lot of this at STAT. Service-based industries, one-on-one with patients or couples, you are hearing their trauma every day. And a lot of people describe it as like second trauma that we're experiencing as functional medicine providers, as therapists. So it's even more important than we're doing the things outside of our job to widen our threshold and help with recovery and resilience. And so I'm excited to talk about that today. But burnout is really, like, to me, in a very simple way, it's you have, one, you're exhausted. And two, the things that you used to love, you don't enjoy anymore. So like, you used to love being a therapist, but now it's like, I dread going and seeing my clients. I used to love like listening to podcasts about how to become a best therapist. And now I'm like, I feel very fine with just staying a very mediocre therapist. Like, I can't wait for my day to end. Like, a lot of that to me is burnout. You've lost your drive. You've lost your desire to be the best version of yourself, and your cup is empty. You have nothing left to pour from. And I truly believe the longer I've been in this, and as I physically and emotionally pushed myself as a CEO and founder of STAT, it's not necessarily our job in isolation that's causing burnout. It is what we're doing outside of our job. And that's really what I want to chat about. And I also want, and I feel like speaking to therapists, you guys know this, but I spend a lot of time talking about the stress bell curve. And so I always like to, before we move into burnout and stress and increasing resilience, for us all to be on the same page that stress is good. Right? Like you want to be under stress. You want to exercise and put stress on your heart. You want to lift weight and put stress on your muscles. You want to take the promotion and grow your skill set. Stress is not bad. We have to think about that as eustress, but there's a point where we tip over where our performance goes down because our stress is too high and we start to approach burnout, which is what we're trying to prevent.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I think, as we all know, we learn from being under stress. I mean, we learn through putting ourselves in situations that might feel kind of scary to some degree. Learning to ride a bicycle, you had to take a risk there and put yourself under some stress. But once you did, then you remember the rest of your life. So, I mean, not maybe a great
exactly
example,
right.
But yeah. So
I do think that's actually a great example. I think that's like and I think there's certain personalities that are easier to put themselves out there and easier to take that risk on than other personalities. But you want to look back at your life and know that you pushed yourself to a point that helped you become the best version of yourself, but you still were able to live life to its fullest. You still had healthy relationships, quality of life. You felt purpose driven. You felt like your life was in alignment with your goals. And I feel like the more and more I've done this, the more and more I've realized we have no idea what our goals in life are. We have no idea what our mission is, what our core values are. And for me as the CEO of STAT, like I think about that for our business all the time. What's our mission?
Right.
What's our core values? How are we hiring people for them? But like in our own life, how much time do you spend thinking about like what my mission is, my vision is, my core values? You're almost like interviewing the people that are coming into your community, that are becoming your close friends, your family, your spouses, right? It's just,
all right.
So I always like to set that stage, but my goal in this conversation is to help everybody recover better and become more resilient. And so I always think about this rubber band, and I know it's like a very cheesy analogy, but it just makes so much sense. If you have a rubber band and you are under stress and you stretch that rubber band, if you know how to bring yourself back to baseline, that rubber band doesn't snap, right? If you stretch and you stretch and you stretch and you stretch and you never recover, that rubber band is going to snap and we're going to get into burnout. So our goal is not, again, to remove the stressors. Our goal is to increase recovery and improve resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your approach with that, with people? I think, and I know just in a little bit, I know about you, Kristin, it's more of a holistic approach. So yeah, how do you do that with people?
So I'm very visual. You could do this with a piece of paper. You could visualize that like a bucket like I do. You could do a drawing, an infographic, whatever you want to do that makes sense with this concept. But I talk a lot about your stress bucket and how many things right now are in your stress bucket and what are things in your stress bucket that you can remove. So I want to walk people through some stressors that people might not recognize as stressors, but remember stress is good, right? So when I talk about a lot of these stressors, you're going to be like, well, that's good. That is good, but it's still a stress on the system, right? So exercise. What's your exercise looking like? Are you training for a marathon right now? That's a lot of stress on your body. You know, some could argue mindset-wise, mental clarity-wise, maybe there's a lot of positives that come from it, but that's stress on the body. So like, okay, how much are we exercising? What does that look like? Caffeine. Caffeine's a stimulant. It's stress on our body. There's a lot of research that coffee is good for us, but how much coffee are we drinking? So we've got exercise, we've got coffee, sleep. How much sleep deprivation are we under? If we are getting 6 hours of sleep every night, that's stress on the body. So put that into your bucket, right? If we start putting that our job is in a really stressful state, put that in our bucket. Our relationships are not healthy right now. Put that in our bucket. We're under financial stress. Put that in your bucket. Start writing out all the different stressors on your system. Some of our patients, because of some of the good research out there, they're starting to intermittent fast. Put that in your bucket because that's stress on the body. Sauna, cold plunge, the temperature contrast, that's stress on the body. So sometimes the people that are at more risk of burnout are actually my high performers that are doing everything for their health, right?
Yes.
They're waking up at 5 a.m. and they're working out and they're drinking coffee and they're intermittent fasting and then they're working a high intensity job. You look on paper and you're like, wow, they always are exercising and they eat really clean, right? But they're putting a lot of good stress on their system and their bucket is getting full. and it's going to dip. So I want us to all kind of think broad. And then there's even things that maybe are harder to identify, like food sensitivities, for example. Let's say you are sensitive to dairy and you eat a lot of dairy and it's causing mild inflammation in the body. That inflammation is also a stressor on the system. So nothing inherently is wrong with dairy. I have dairy, but like some people are sensitive to it. So like you have to really, when you're thinking about burnout and when you're thinking about optimizing recovery and resilience, you have to cast a wide net and you have to take time to like really start to pay attention to how you feel during different points of the day and what you're doing to fill your cup up. And then write out some of those stressors, good and bad, and start to visualize, well, how many of those do I have going on every single day and what can I cut back on? So for example, I have a patient I talked with and she was telling me that every morning she wakes up and she drinks coffee. And I was like, well, how do you feel when you drink coffee? She was like, well, I get a little bit of diarrhea, but like helps me go to the bathroom and I get a little bit shaky, but like it's the caffeine. Like everybody has that response when they have coffee. So every morning you're waking up and you're drinking coffee, you're getting a little bit of anxiety, your heart's beating quickly and you're having diarrhea. And that's how we start our day every day. I was like, why don't we switch it to green tea? Let's see how we feel having some green tea in the morning, right? So for that person, that very small thing shifted her nervous system and lowered her cortisol before her day even started.
Right.
And
yeah, I was just thinking the image that came to mind for me is really identifying all the pressure points in your life, the things that are causing you stress or anxiety, that kind of thing. I think that's, and it's amazing when we do those things, when we do kind of an inventory, a lot of times it turns out that the inventory isn't as big as we thought it was.
Yes. Well, and that was what I was going to bring up next is like just the different, if you look at people that have a lot of stressors on their plate, like if you look at, for example, my life, I have 3 young kids. You know, I've got this business I described earlier. I see patients still 2 days a week. I have all the notes. I have all of that, right? My tolerance for stress is so wide because of the way my life looks. So that something that I have going on right now, people may never know because it's like such a lower stressor out of the whole grand scheme. So I'm able, my mindset around it is like, I don't have the time to get angry and dwell on some of these small things. And I really challenge people, like the thing that you're angry about, the thing that's creating a lot of stress, that inner voice that's talking to yourself, do you really have control over the outcome of that? And so many times people don't. And there's this book, I don't know if you guys have heard about it in your space, but it's called The Real Self-Care. It's the premise is pretty basic, but it's pretty impactful when you think about it. So, you know, a lot of our people come in there and I ask them, well, what do you do for self-care? Well, I go and get massages or I go and do yoga or I go and get like once a month a facial. And I'm like, well, I love that you do that stuff for you. That's great. But, you know, the real self-care is how do you talk to yourself that 15 hours you're awake every day? Your voice is the most powerful thing in burnout. And so I know this in the therapy space, you guys probably help a lot of patients with this inner voice, but when I meet with patients, it's the hardest thing for me to evaluate. There's not a lab value that I can run on how you talk to yourself. And if 8 hours of every day, you're telling yourself, I'm not enough. I hated the way that therapy session went. Like, why did I respond that way? If you are all day long self-deprecating, you are at an astronomical higher risk of burning out than if you can just say like, man, that was kind of funny the way I said that. Like I was embarrassed for a little bit, but like everybody says those things and you don't think about it again. Your nervous system that responds to that in such a different way. So I think when I think about burnout and resilience, I think about like those obvious stressors. I think about some of the non-obvious physical stressors. I think about how do we make sure we are taking care of ourselves with those lifestyle foundations, hydration, sleep, laughter. Sometimes I ask patients, when's the last time you laughed? Sometimes I tell patients, throw your wearable away. I love wearables. I like literally have a practice around like helping people know their data, their HRV, their deep sleep percent, all of this stuff. But knowledge is not good for everybody, right? There are people that obsess about that information and it dictates their life decisions and they don't know how they feel anymore because they just go based off the data. If the data tells them in the morning that they're not recovered, they're going to look at that and be like, I'm not recovered. I've got to lay on the couch all day, or I'm really recovered. Now I can go do this. And I'm like, you know, data is knowledge is power, but we cannot over perfect and stress these points. And so a lot of times for me, I'm telling people to throw out the wearables, start paying attention to how you actually feel. Start paying attention to how
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to yourself. Going to bed 30 minutes earlier can make a huge difference when we're talking about burnout. Waking up
Right.
and drinking water and eating breakfast before you have your coffee can make a huge difference in burnout. These are small changes that totally change your body's nervous system and adrenal health.
Yeah, you're so right, because what we put in our heads, the stories we tell ourselves, have a huge impact on our whole mental health and how we see the world and how our body responds to it as well. And that's, I think that is key. And being able to recognize, okay, what are the things I have control over versus the ones that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk, in working with clients, one of the things that I talk with them about is having the difference between having an internal locus of control versus an external locus of control. If we're constantly just reacting to everything around us, and our whole sense of control is what everybody else is doing, that's gonna be exhausting, and you're going to be perpetually frustrated, and you're going to be let down, and all of those kinds of things. Versus, okay, having an internal locus of control of, like you said, I can control when I go to bed. I can control what I eat. I can look at how I'm taking care of myself and all of those kinds of things.
You know that music? That's the sound of shopping for car insurance the old way. Life's too short for that. Jerry makes car insurance easier. Open the app, answer a few questions, and Jerry pulls up to 20 quotes from top insurers. Then choose and switch right in the app. No re-entering your information. No saxophone solos. And Jerry keeps checking rates for you. So you're not back on hold 6 months from now. Visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today.
Before we had AT&T Business Wireless coverage, our delivery GPS wasn't the most reliable. Once our driver had to do a 14-point turn to get back on route. A 14-point turn! An influencer even live streamed the whole thing. Not good for business. Now with AT&T Business Wireless, routes are updating on the fly and deliveries are on time. And the influencer did get us 53 new followers, though.
AT&T Business Wireless. Connecting changes everything.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Exactly right. And this, I feel like the way I describe this is finding peace in the chaos. I talk with my patients, like, how well are you able to find peace in the chaos? Because I think in all of our lives, living in the US and probably anywhere in the world, like, there's always chaos around us. And that chaos around us should not throw off our own internal balance. And so we talk a lot in the same way with our clients, because you can have a chaotic life and you internally can still feel at peace, and your nervous system can feel calm. And I've never lost a night of sleep from a business ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my external, whatever's going on, it is never going to impact my ability to fall asleep, stay asleep.
Right.
I'll deal with that fire tomorrow. But it's that mindset shift. And one of the other things, when you were talking about like what we can control and what we can't control, every once in a while, thankfully it doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while, I get so incredibly overwhelmed. And I'm like, I have 500,000 things I'm stressing out about right now. And so what I do is I take out a piece of paper and I start writing all of those things down. And then I go through the list with a Sharpie and I write through all the things I can't control. So like maybe I'm like really stressed out about something going on in the world, the politics, maybe something I saw on Instagram, like whatever it may be. Like I just write everything in my brain down. And then I circle the ones that are within my control. And then I put like 1 or 2 actions that's going to help me figure out a solution. I like to stay in the solution space versus stay in the agony of the stress space. And so that's been super helpful for me. Like I always describe seasons, like there are seasons that are really full and there are seasons where you have a lot more in your mind, a lot more stress going on. But I'd encourage you, like really try to get it out on paper and try to get the things that you can't control. Try not to spend as much time focusing on those and train your mind to let it go.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things that I journal pretty much every day. And so and I encourage clients to do that as well, because like you said, it's the stuff you carry inside, and to be able to write it down is kind of a way of putting it out here outside yourself so that you can look at it maybe a little more objectively. And it's not driven by a lot of irrational thoughts and those negative messages we tell ourselves and all of that sort of thing. That internal critic is very powerful force for a lot of us. Yeah.
And I'm not a therapist and I'm not in the research enough, but I'd almost argue it's so, so important in I think that is almost the most important piece, even beyond the sleep, the hydration, because it's every day with you from when you wake up till when you go to bed, when you're sitting in traffic, when you're working. That voice, it is the most influential thing on our nervous system. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think it's the hardest thing. Someone, I can tell them to drink more water and go to bed earlier. They're like, got it. I'm really organized person. I'm really on top of it. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to go to bed earlier. I'm going to cut out the alcohol. I'm going to reduce my caffeine. They can do those things. But then I'm they'll come into an appointment and they'll say, I almost canceled this because I've done absolutely nothing you told me to. Well, then I said, well, did you wake up in the morning and did you go to work? And, have you been exercising? I'm you've been doing a lot since I saw you last. Right. You've been waking up, you've been working, but I can already tell they're criticizing themselves before we've even had an opportunity to meet. And then I can tell them well, actually, you've had some improvements in your labs. I want you to leave here knowing that you did a great job. Tell me something before you walk out of this room that you did really well in the last 90 days since I saw you.
Right.
But that voice, and it's the more I look into the research, and again, this is your guy's space, but it's really taught at a very, very young age. And so you have to rewire the brain. And this can take months and years and decades, depending on the person and the degree of, upbringing. If you're told your whole life you're never enough, that's all you believe, that you're never enough.
Right.
So I think there's multiple buckets when it comes to burnout. I don't think it's just our job. I think there is some things we can do in our job throughout our day that does make a big difference. And some of these are super small, but just getting a little bit more tactical. Let's say you have 5 clients, certain things in between each client can reground you, basic things, rolling your shoulders, release some of that tension in your shoulders between appointments, go back, do 1 minute, save 1 minute between clients to do some breath work. Re-lower your cortisol. Maybe that person, something they said was actually really triggering for something you've experienced in your own life. Take a moment, roll the shoulders, do the breath work, get some water. If you're in an office that does have a window, go stand by the window for a second, let the sunshine come. If you're in an office that doesn't have a window, put, a 5-minute break in your day to go outside, get sunshine on your face. I'm a huge proponent. I don't know in your space as much as mine, but I really try when I'm with patients. I do not look at my email. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. I don't need any other notifications coming at me. I want to focus on my patients and myself, and my patients and myself. And those fires, they'll be there. But if I pull up my email or I see a text, something's going on with an employee, some policy needs to be signed. Now I have all of those stressors on top of what I'm already doing.
Right. Yeah. And I was going to say, just with the phones and all of that, one of the things that I think kind of adds to kind of that negative self-talk is spending too much time, doom scrolling and then comparing yourself to others, which don't get me started. But,
have you heard of the brick?
The brick? No, I've not heard of that. Yeah.
So a lot of people are starting to get the brick, which I'm so excited about. It goes with your phone, but you set barriers to where it locks you from your own apps at certain times of the day.
Okay.
And I have found that my patients, they need that. They really need it on the phone because, they've gotten the kids to bed or whatever, and they just are laying there on the couch and they grab their phone and they try to go to Instagram. And it's locked. They can't get into their Instagram to start doom scrolling.
Yeah.
So I'm if you are having a hard time, setting up boundaries, there's a lot of strategies. You could put a box in your house. When you come home, you put your phone in there for an hour or two. Just give yourself an hour or two of no technology, no scrolling. Or maybe you need to get something like the brick because you're I need to have my phone to be accessible if a school calls or somebody calls. Lock you out of those other apps that don't serve you well.
Yeah.
There's more and more research coming out around the importance of that. And I think it's everything all the time is what is leading
Yeah.
to the burnout in the US. It's
Yeah,
everything all the
I
time.
think it is. Yeah. And to go back to something you said earlier, and people have heard this for a lot from me, is be really clear with yourself about your why. You know, why are you doing what you're doing? What is the internal motivation for being in practice or doing the work that you do? And if you're not clear on that, you might want to take a look at that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially in a service-based industry, like especially when day in and day out, you're sitting with people, you're pouring into them. Like any service-based industry is a very challenging business because you're on all the time. And I talk about this with our team. I'm like, you don't really have an opportunity to have a bad day when you're sitting in front of a client. Like you have to show up and be the best version of yourself. But when you know that why, it makes the good and the bad. It's like you just can see the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Kristin, I've got to be respectful of your time, and I'm really glad we had this conversation. What parting thoughts do you have? And also tell folks how they can get in touch with you and find out more about the work that you're doing.
So I don't know if your audience does use wearables. I know some of my patients, I said, you got to throw it out, but there is an indicator on your Apple Watch. There's an indicator on an Oura Ring, Whoop Band. That's a really good tool to evaluate burnout. And it's called your heart rate variability. And so this evaluates how your nervous system responds to stress. How quickly are we able to calm down? How much variation do we have throughout the day? And there should actually be a lot of variation. If you get up and walk, if you're exercising, if you get stressed and you calm down, we want heart rate variability. And so if you are wearing an Apple Watch and you had no idea it was measuring this, you can go to the health app on your phone. If you have the Oura Ring, the Whoop Band, look at your HRV. And there is not a perfect level. The HRV, the research is kind of all over the place. We know women tend to have lower ones. It declines with age. But in general, we want our patients to be at 50 or above. So if you are like, I don't really know how my nervous system is doing, like I feel fine, and you look at your HRV and you're at 13, 14, 15, I am concerned about your nervous system. And you need to really take an evaluation of your life and go back to your breath and the hydration and the sleep and the laughter and relationships and all these things we've talked about today. And just track it, not every day, periodically, but it is a good indicator that a lot of people don't know is there. And then to answer your question of how you can find us, my practice is called Stat Wellness. It's STATwellness.com. We do free 15 minutes. We work with a lot of therapists actually to run their adrenal glands, check their cortisol, check their DHEA, their inflammation, their nutrients, and we do free 15s. So you can hop on with one of our providers, see if there's a way that we can work with you or help you and see if we're a right fit. And I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the things, Kristin Oja, DMP.
Well, we'll have links, and we'll have links, of course, in the show notes and the show summary for people to get to that. And Kristin, I'm so glad we got to meet and got to do this together. And thank you for having me on your podcast. Tell folks about that as well.
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to the Little By podcast, Gordon was on there talking about the health of relationships. And so we'll be releasing that in the next few weeks. So be sure to check it out. And it stands for little by little, a little becomes a lot.
Right. That's great. I love that concept. So, well, thanks again, Kristin, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Well, a big thanks to Kristin for being on the podcast, and do check out her things. Again, you'll find the links here in the show notes and the show summary to get to that easily. And I hope this gave you a lot of food for thought as far as just thinking about your own stress levels and ways to kind of monitor that and pay attention to it. I know this year for me, I've been concentrating a lot more on my health and that sort of thing. And it's, I'm feeling the difference, and it really does help with the stress levels when you're physically taking care of yourself. So check it out. And also, big thanks to our sponsor of the podcast, TherapyNotes. They are the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers, at least in my opinion, and they're who I use in my practice. And so be sure to check them out by going to practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes and use that promo code, just Gordon, Gordon. You can try them out for 2 months for free. And also, if you're interested in working with me, love for you to get in touch with me and set up one of the free 15-minute brainstorming sessions. Love to have a conversation with you about the things that you're working on and the things that you feel like you need help with. So be sure and check that out. So take care, folks. Do take time to follow us or subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it. You have been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts. Please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com for more information, resources, and tools to help you in starting, building, and growing your private practice. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up to receive the free Private Practice Startup Guide at practiceoftherapy.com. And to find more great podcasts like this one, please visit the PsychCraft Network at psychcraftnetwork.com. The information in this podcast is intended to be accurate and authoritative concerning the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, or producers are rendering legal, accounting, or clinical advice. And if you need help in these areas, be sure to find the right professional to help you with these things.
Everyone deserves to feel safe at home, yet a home fire is reported every 96 seconds, and only 1 in 4 families have practiced a fire escape plan. Kidda, a trusted leader in fire safety for more than 100 years, offers a free digital fire drill simulator that uses augmented reality for an immersive fire safety education experience, available in both English and Spanish. All you need is a phone or tablet and an internet connection to access Kidda's Prepare Plan practice tool. Visit cause4alarm.org and try it today.
Staples Business presents Facility Heroes. Thanks to you, all restrooms are clean and the break room is pristine. Staples Business, expert guidance for facility heroes.
That was easy.
Visit staplesbusiness.com today.